The man who became the face of America's debate over assisted suicide died today. Jack Kevorkian was 83.
They called him Dr. Death, a nickname he earned after a decade of helping suffering and terminally ill people die. The first in 1990, a woman with Alzheimer's who died in what Kevorkian dubbed his suicide machine, a rusty old Volkswagen van. The last in 1998, a man with Lou Gehrig's disease. That happened on national TV and led to his fifth trial, the one that finally sent him to prison. Kevorkian insisted he was performing a medical service for an agonized human being. His supporters wore buttons that said, "I back Jack." But a jury convicted him of second-degree murder and sent him to prison for 8 years. After he got out in 2007, he never assisted with another suicide. But Kevorkian made his stamp on our culture.
Barbara Walters interviewed Dr. Kevorkian many times. And Barbara, I want to start out by showing a clip from one of those interviews that really gets to the heart of this debate about Dr. Kevorkian.
What do you say to people who say, Dr. Kevorkian, you are playing God?
Well, so is a doctor who takes your heart from one body and puts it in another, isn't he? A doctor always plays God, even when he gives you a pill, because he's interfering with a natural process.
Instead of being called Dr. Death, which does sound so very extreme and so very ghoulish.
Yes.
Isn't there something you would prefer being called?
Well, I will one day.
What do you think you will be called then?
When society reaches the age of enlightenment, then they'll call me and other doctors Dr. Life.
Dr. Life. He really saw himself as a humanitarian.
He does. He hasn't been called Dr. Life yet. And he didn't know, because he was a loner, although Georgie was a nice guy, but he was a little odd. So he knew that people thought he was ghoulish. What he really had wanted was to have prisoners donate their organs, prisoners who were doomed to death just before the death was committed, that they could give their organs to help others. That never happened. Nor did he want to do the other procedures, the assisted suicide, alone, but he could never get any other doctors to agree.
So he didn't start out going down this road, but he was willing to pay the price.
And go to jail. He was. What he hoped his legacy would be, the Dr. Life would be, is that certain hospitals would have areas with the right doctors, with the psychiatrists, knowing that there were patients for whom there was no hope, that there would then be assisted suicide, but that it would be legitimate and that it would be compassionate. That's what he wanted, and he was willing to go to jail to try to make that happen.
But as he dies, this whole debate over assisted suicide is divisive as ever.
That's right, and he would be the first to deplore that. We have not reached the Dr. Life stage, and it's still an enormous controversy. Hasn't faded.
Okay, Barbara Walters, thanks very much.
Thank you, George.